It was sometime around 12:47 a.m. on Allied Airlines Flight 443, on its routine flight from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania to Tallahassee, Florida. Flight had taken off from Philadelphia at 11:45 p.m., it had a 15-minute delay.
Knots, check. B1, rotate. B2. Positive brake. Gear up.
By 12:05 a.m., the flight reached its cruising altitude of 32,000 feet. Captain Michael Carter turns off the main cabin lights for the passengers, making it easier for the passengers to fall asleep. At 12:22 a.m., Flight 443's co-pilot John Anderson observed a single bright light off to the aircraft's right side. While watching the bright light, it began getting larger in size. Within 2 to 3 minutes later, the UFO could be visually seen from the Boeing 757. It was at least twice the size of their plane, a very large UFO. First Officer John Anderson detected it was matching our speed and altitude. Captain Michael Carter got FAA traffic control on the radio and asked if there were any other aircraft near their position. Air traffic control responded, "Nothing in your location." He then asked for authorization to drop to a lower altitude. Tower control gave Flight 443 approval to drop to 30,000 feet from 32,000 feet. The captain and first officer both observed the UFO followed them down to 30,000 feet and matched their airspeed of 425 miles per hour. Soon after the altitude change, there was a right turn required by the air traffic controller, from 175 degrees heading south to 195 degrees with a heading of south-southeast. Captain Michael took control. First officer said out loud, "Captain has the plane." Soon after, the captain made his right turn rather quickly, forgetting the UFO at their right side. It was at that time both captain and the first officer realized they must have collided with their visitor on their right. First officer looked to examine the damage and found their right wing had been damaged in the collision and was leaking jet fuel along with hydraulic fluid. The Boeing 757 was becoming hard to control because of the hydraulic fluid leak, because all the manual controls are powered by the hydraulics. It was about 90 seconds after the collision when the jet fuel ignited, and just then there was a bright flash, and then the 757 exploded into a fiery ball, and started to crash into a heavily wooded forest just outside of the town of Piney Bluff, Georgia. The large UFO came down and hovered over the crash site for 5 to 10 seconds and then just disappeared into the vastness of space. Police, fire rescue responded to the call of a large aircraft that has crashed in the forest just outside of their town. Fire Chief Jeffrey Hines was thinking to himself, saying, "A crash with an aircraft this size, we will need a lot of body bags tonight," instead of performing CPR rescue. When the fire chief turned the last corner where the crash was located at, he was shocked to find so many people alive. The crew and passengers were together, still in shock that they were still alive and breathing. For what had just happened to them was a miracle. Soon Captain Michael Carter and Fire Chief Jeffrey Hines had spotted one another and began talking to each other about what had happened. First thing that the fire chief wanted to know, how did you manage to save so many people and how many account for and how many are lost in the crash? Captain Mike told the fire chief all accounted for except one passenger. Captain Mike explained they had a UFO following them matching altitude and airspeed. Air traffic control told us to maintain 30,000 feet and make a turn to 195 degrees southwest. It was at that time we must have hit the UFO with our right wing. Jet fuel and hydraulic fluid began leaking, making it almost impossible for us to control the aircraft. I don't believe we damaged the UFO at all. Just then we all seen a bright flash. We all believe we were inside of the alien spacecraft for about maybe a tenth of a second, and then we ended down here watching our own Boeing 757 crash into the forest that's right here before us. What happened tonight is a first time in aviation history. Why save 214 passengers and let one die?
It's extreme that we destroyed the Boeing 757. But as long as we killed that rogue pirate alien being, he was wanted for many alien and human deaths. Contact the SSB and have them pick up the dead alien shapeshifter. He will not be harming anyone now.